TLDR, problem player tries stalling game to death by claiming poor health and canceling late repeatedly. Coincidentally feels well enough to play once the rules change to keep going without him. Greetings adventurers and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. Today's story goes by the name of the Cancellation Gambit, Disposing a Tyrant, and tells a story that I think we're all a little too familiar with. I know it sucks to miss out on a D&D campaign, but holding it hostage specifically for the purpose that you get to play because you're afraid to miss out is not something that you want to do to your friends. Make sure to like and subscribe for more stories like these, and let's jump right into it. Okay, I've been having fun reading about horror stories of this subreddit for a while, so I think it's time to contribute. I've had a hard time knowing where to even start with this guy, for the Neg cinematic universe is a vast and tangled web of stories unfolding concurrently across different worlds and formats, all influencing each other, but I'll try. There's a risk he might see this and recognize me, but since his various conflicts ultimately tore apart our friend group in the end, it's not like there's anything left he can take hostage or destroy to punish me or anyone else involved anymore, so enjoy. Everyone here is in their late 20s, early 30s, a group of international friends playing together roughly once a week for several years at this point. Neg, thus ultimately named for his bright and sunny disposition, simply hated every aspect of the campaign we were playing. He hated the system, he hated his class, but also refused offers to change it. He hated the other players, he hated the story. The list could go on. So he did what any sensible person would do. Stop the game from happening as often as possible. You see, simply quitting wasn't an option because he did want to play. He just didn't want to play this anymore. I'm pretty sure the hope was that we'd eventually lose interest in this campaign if he stalled long enough so we could play something he liked better instead. Or maybe he just wanted to punish us for having fun when he wasn't. Either option is likely. Enter the late cancellations. Despite the GM sending out ready checks about 24 hours before the game start, Neg never ever responded. Unless it was the cancel, which he had been doing between about an hour and mere minutes before the game start, always citing some form of not feeling well. Sometimes it was true, other times it was simply a lie to conceal the fact he'd rather be playing some new video game instead. At this table, the rule was that the game was always cancelled if even one player couldn't make it, which hadn't been really that much of a problem until Neg decided to take the game hostage. Now, this was online and spanned a few different time zones, which meant that while it started just past noon on Saturday for Neg and a couple of others, for me it was the late evening, prime time, so I often had to leave other engagements early in order to make it. Since Neg started his cancellation spree, however, I'd several times in the span of a month or two now left some event only to find the game had been called off by the time I got home. So I was getting real tired of Neg's casual disregard for other people's time. Time to push back. At the start of one particular session, our VTT had updated and wouldn't load in our usual browsers. So everyone tried different options until one worked and eventually we were all ready. Except for Neg, of course. He had tried every browser, he said, and nothing worked. I asked if he had even tried Edge, that's the one I could get to work, which he responded by launching into a tirade about how much he hated that and refused to use it. Wow, I didn't realize that, Edge was a class in this game as well. He seems to hate a lot of things. So no, he hadn't. We tried to nicely ask him to try it. If it didn't work either, then at least we had done everything we could, Nope, he would rather die. And was sure it wouldn't work anyways because blah blah blah. Okay, I cut through the noise. Let me get this straight. Despite everyone else putting in the effort to be here and make this work, you think we should call off the game instead because you simply cannot handle using a browser you didn't like for just 3 hours? I didn't add because that's childish as hell, but I think he knew there was no way to answer that in an affirmative without sounding like an effing baby even without it. The call got quiet for a moment, and then Neg finally muttered something to the effect of course not. I'm just saying there's no point even trying because it definitely won't work, but fine. Reluctantly gave it a go. And wouldn't you know it, Edge did actually work. Naturally, he was back at it again only a few sessions later, once again late in letting us know he unfortunately couldn't make it because he was oh so poorly. At this point, it had been easily 6 months of this, which meant he was clearly too unwell to regularly participate in our game, or he was not acting in good faith, and luckily for me, there was one easy way of finding out. I asked the GM if we could put the cancellation rules to a vote. Turns out we could, so we did. The other players, except for Neg of course, ultimately agreeing to keep on going even with one person missing. Majority wins, the game was to go on. So I want to commend the writer of this story right here. This is exactly how you address a problem player. You've been patient with them, you've known them for years, they're acting up, it's kind of out of turn. You called them out on their BS. You put it in a way where you weren't, name calling, you weren't like doing anything too rude. You're just being like, hey man, we need you to try this if this really means much to you. And what do you know? He caves one time, and then when he immediately reverts in another session when he's not called out, you realize that simply addressing it isn't enough. We need to go deeper, and we need to change a fundamental rule. You handled it very diplomatically. The rest of the party seemed to be okay with the rule change, and it's a very sensible one too. And let's see the results of these actions. And wouldn't you know it, Neg showed up too. Not only was he now feeling well enough to play after all, the late cancellations stopped altogether after the new rules went into effect. Funny coincidence, huh? He did end up quitting eventually, but that whole mess is a story for another time. And there you have it. It works beautifully for the time being. Obviously in the intro and in a future story that I may cover, it seems like there's another reason why this player is able to completely destroy the party. But if this is an instance of a problem player being a problem player, maybe for like the first time, this was beautifully handled. He called them out immediately. He gave them alternatives that were very fair that no other player was going to, push back on him for. And when, the behavior needed to be corrected in a more substantial way, because he was going to find a new way to sabotage each session coming up, the rule change was really well done. I personally feel like you want to cancel sessions, maybe it's like the very big one if one person can't make it, but realistically, people are going to miss all the time, and it's going to be different players at different times. If someone can't make it 1 week and someone can't make it, 2 or 3 weeks, it sucks to miss it, but you try to, give them a recap, you try to keep them involved. In Neg's case, where he clearly is using it just as a tool to stall, you kind of have to not humor it. Because really, if he wants to make his own campaign that bad, he can find another group and he can suck it up through this one, or he can ultimately leave. But really, you can't always play the exact game that one of your players wants, because the person who's going to be the most disagreeable, who's going to be the most selfish, he's going to keep asking for more and more demands until basically he wants a private session with an audience. So the DM's going to be, stuck on track. The rest of the players are going to have to watch the main character do whatever he wants. There's a difference between a fear of missing out and just wanting it your way or no way at all. And I think this player Neg seems to fall into that latter camp. This one was kind of short and sweet, but there's going to be many to follow, as it seems like. I'm curious to see if there's like this bigger story for that ultimate fallout. It seems like it's coming down the pipeline, so I'll keep that on my radar. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks for stopping by, and farewell for now. Community shoutout time. Thank you Apocalypso, Deadly Plays, Alfonso, and Bloodsmith Gamer. Thank you for making this all possible with your support.